Welcome, everybody, to another episode of My World, the podcast where I, pen name Peanut Butter, 20c.com, talk and we enjoy some world issues and some, maybe opinion takes on stuff. And as well, I'm going to try and incorporate interviews into every podcast. So, yeah, this episode's topic is existing in the world. That's right, existing in the world. What does that look like? I guess it looks like waking up every day, right? We all do that. I think we all exist in the world. But what is it to exist? Well, it's defined as to live, especially under adverse conditions. And, it's funny because we're getting into existentialism this episode, which means that your boy Peanut Butter over here must be well taken care of if I have the luxury of time to talk into a microphone about existentialism, so to speak. We're not in survival mode, right? We here at 20c.com. At least I'm not. I'm stoked on that. Yeah, I got my license recently. My G1, my learner's permit out here, which is nice. It's been a while. Took a while, rather, but it was as a result of getting back to school and stuff like that, which is cool. I happened to be up the street from a test taking place while I was at one of my classes, and so I started coming up with the idea of going there, and eventually got my license. But then, it's funny because that is part of existing, right? Getting in line, as silly as it seems, right? For most people at least, I was reading an interesting article the other day about people who live on the other side of the law, entirely as like rebels, anarchists and counterculturalists and stuff like that. People who they try their best to live off the grid, or some of these people, they try to full on not be citizens, and not take part and all that for moral reasons, obviously. And but it's funny because they end up having like normal lives, some of them, depending on how smart you are, I guess, and still end up doing a lot of things, like, for instance, driving, and they'll just drive illegally and find ways to get away with it, and this, that, and the third. The whole thing, people live their whole life like that, right? And so, I don't know, I think, getting my G1 was part of how I exist in the world. I managed to exist on paper with this license thing going on, and I'm stoked about it, right? Black History Month, yeah, that's a big thing, right? That's us appreciating how black people exist in the world, and don't they live under adverse conditions, right? Yeah. You think Oprah didn't have it hard on the come up? A black woman? I don't know about that. Bet you there's more than a few situations for her. I was watching some Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now I know I play on that with my comic book character Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But recently I was watching some more Kareem Abdul-Jabbar highlights. Jabbar, the basketball player. Man, what a fucking athlete. Some of the footage is pretty dope. Like, you know, I just can't imagine the world without black people's contributions and stuff. You know, like like I was saying, Oprah, she's done a lot in terms of helping people, but then there's people like Snoop Dogg, you know, who are just like just kicking ass these days, I'd say, you know, in terms of being like super accessible, but being very, very out there in terms of like, you know, exposed, but then at the same time, you know, putting out that like, you know, positive like human element and stuff, like with that wholesome thing that he does with Martha Stewart, and then, you know, I think he's even trying to quit smoking these days and stuff like that. Yeah, man, that Snoop Dogg's big guy, you know, huge influence, I think, too, not just in the States. Everybody remembers that guy, even like all the way back, you know. I was like, yeah, man, you gotta give it up for black people this month. You know, they're always facing adversity and adverse conditions existing on the real in this world, right? Like, especially like when you think about all the things that fucking happen and stuff. Like, I mean, there's like the drug epidemic in the 80s, obviously, but now when you have like overdose is like that's become a thing, you know. There's a whole culture of like near death experiences and that people have, like, you know, there's like whole segments of our population are now sharing in trauma of, like, you know, nearly dying and coming back to life and trying to cope with it and interpreting it in different ways and stuff like that. It's insane. Like, I mean, and just the ways these circumstances play out, like how they happen. There was in Belleville, Ontario, 23 overdoses in 2 days. I was just like, whoa. Was that like was that for real? Like did these addicts do that to themselves on purpose or something to send a message, or was it like some very, very extremely powerful fentanyl got onto the streets or something? That's strange. I don't even know. Crazy to think that there's even like 23 people in Belleville alone that are just like banging that like fucking hard drugs and shit. I'm not saying there's like 23 people banging hard drugs is surprising, but like it just 23 people dying of it tells you there's probably like a lot of people doing hard drugs in Belleville, I think. 23 people overdosing in 2 days. Big issue. You know, I remember Polyev was on debate, and he was like talking about how the conservatives aren't in support of like safe injection sites and, like, you know, supplying the addicts with, like, you know, a safe drug supply and stuff like that. Like it, and again, I know some of the programs that exist are, like, you know, questionable or whatever, that do that like supply drug addicts who do street drugs with, you know, safe drugs to use. Like, there aren't very many, but for some marginalized populations, I think there are some programs, and he's opposed to those. Like, wants to shut them down entirely and doesn't want to even expand on anything like that, and is opposed to safe injection sites, which I think is, like, you know, like I'm not sure he's out and out said he was going to put like the kibosh on safe injection sites if the conservatives win or something and take power, but I think it was like, you know, he's not very much in support of that. If they win, there's just the budget's not going to go to stuff like that very much, which is, like, you know, concerning when 23 people overdose in 2 days in Belleville. You know, kind of hard to exist in conditions like that for those 23 people, you know? Not to mention just like, oh, anybody notice things have been getting pretty violent? It's just like ever since these wars broke out, you know, like the war in Ukraine there with Russia and Hamas and Israel duking it out in the Middle East. Yeah, well, I see the violence like butterfly affecting into the day to day like crazy, and the anger especially. Yeah, but then it's just like there was that Kansas City parade shooting that happened, and like that in my mind just brought me right back to when the Raptors won. What was the Larry O'Brien Trophy, 2018, and like it's hilarious because there was a shooting at our parade, and like yeah, there's a shooting at the Kansas City parade that was for NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs won, and I think they played San Francisco or something. But then like it was a mass shooting in Kansas. At least ours wasn't. It was just like a single gunman, I think, going after like a singular person or something. It wasn't like, I think the person was like, Kansas City was like randomly shooting at people or something. I don't know. They made it seem like it was like something like that. Anyways, I don't know. Lots of people ceasing to exist every day in my world. It's you know, leaves me with a lot of existential dread, you know? And like I hate getting all dogmatic by talking about existentialism. You know, I know people can take that away just because of the school of thought and the history and where it comes from and stuff like that, but I don't know. I guess I was looking into the book Man's Search for Meaning recently. I forget the name of the author, and it talks about like how there's, you know, always something to look for, and that's where I was like getting this concept of like, you know, survival in terms of like existing, right? Because we can talk about existentialism because, or at least I can talk about existentialism right now because I'm not just merely surviving, but there's surviving and then, you know, like existing and you know, even existing happens under adverse conditions, right? And so I think like, you know, that the peak of existence is like it is, you know, survival essentially, because it's you're existing the most when you're under the most adverse conditions, I would say, you know. And like I think that we need a purpose to you know, keep going. I think in the long run, I have at least, you know. And like I just know that in the moment, being conscious and stuff like that, you know, having a purpose when I'm in the right place at the right time is so crucial, because it just keeps me aware and alert as to like what, you know, I need to be doing and stuff like that. It was great recently because I there was like I was going through a rough time, having all this depression and all this other stuff, and like I managed to find a clearing in, you know, in in the fog of my mind of just like, negativity and all this other stuff, and decided to take part in this access to justice seminar, for some, competence hours for my paralegal license. And it was just it was interesting because I was just at the right place at the right time, and that's why I managed to like learn about it and take part. And it was just like an exercise in being at the right place at the right time to like take part in these seminars and stuff like that. And the whole reason I even found out about it was just by trying to be at the right place at the right time. It's weird, and I get that concept from a friend of mine. His cousin used to always say that was important. My buddy Nathan and his cousin Jacob down at a drift skate shop. Shout out to Drift's skate shop. Everybody should go check that out if you like, skateboard gear and clothing and all that stuff. But yeah, no, like, I mean, right place, right time, and YOLO, and we're about to go on break, yo. That's what I'm saying. And happy Black History Month from 2018. Cause hoes never care. Shout out to all the great women out there. Like, yeah, fake studio heads and rappers are trying to pimp her. That's cool. She's more of a hooker than a singer. So don't tell these young girls when you take them out to dinner, you're so much more than a hooker. You're a singer. Yeah. That's not for music, but she better give me my money back, bitch. How's your family doing? If I don't cool, then I don't get my money back. I really like her music, but she gotta be shit to make me cool. She better give me my money back, bitch. In the track Determination, you spit dissing the poor folk while the projects are built better and more spacious than your condo, which I thought was hilarious and often a true story these days. Like, I mean, even in my building, I've seen some of the other units and stuff like that where people like renovated the interiors and stuff. It's like you can make it look as nice as you want in the hood, really, if you have the time and you dedicate yourself to it. But yeah, like I feel like a lot of people front and like they're not determined to do the hard things and like live a decent life in how they live, So my question would be like, what was the hardest part of this track to complete? Like, as far as like rhymes, flows, beat, cadence, like what was really getting at you as an MC?
The mixing, because it's like the lyrics, like I write most of it, and then like if I have to fix things, and again, like what I was saying before about like just writing rhymes on my phone, not that they're fill-ins, but usually I record the whole track, but then it's like having other pop out, because sometimes like when I'm on the bus or whatever, I just something pops in my head, and I know if something pops in my head, then it may pop in other people's head, like, whoa, look at that rhyme. So it's like, not that I have writer's block, but if I want to make something pop out more, then I'll kind of go through that, and I'm like, okay, that fits, boom, and it'll come out. So that's
you're like putting emphasis on things that you find like novelty or intriguing in
yeah, the things I feel like the things that pop in my mind, whether I read about them or write about them or experiences, and I'm like, wow, this really affected me. Then if I put it in the song, so when people listen to it, I hope they're like, whoa, like look at that, like I even have that one rhyme, and I'm like, whoa, you're about to overdose on coke, hypothermic, your heart's about to explode, like shit like that, right? And then like basically it's like, but the making the beats was difficult enough. Like I think I made well over like 20 beats or 25 beats, and then like I had to choose all the beats to use, and even like I sent Cage 5 beats and he picked one out of the 5, and it's kind of like, but really the mixing and mastering, I remember reading interview with 50 Cent somewhere, and he's like, yeah, the mixing and mastering takes the longest. Like every single song went through 8 different mixes where it's like no change ups on like the beat.
Yeah, you're sometimes just trying to make them sound uniform. Yeah.
Yeah, but even just in terms of like, and that's something I want to improve for the workflow of the next album, where it's like I'm gonna eliminate some steps, because it's like every mix, it's like I'd have the drums sound like this loud and the sample this loud in my voice, and then I'd listen to it on headphones. I'm like, okay, my vocals are a bit too loud, so lower them, or lower the snare. But every time I made the change, I'm like, okay, this is the version with the lower snare. I'd have to re-listen to it all over again to get it to
Yeah.
the
So simple
point
does
one,
it kind
point
of
one.
thing.
Yeah, and I would like get it to like the minus point 0.1 decibel, and now I realize I'm like, I probably won't look at the meter until the very last mix, because I could be like, it doesn't have to be at 0 decibels or point minus 1 decibel for mix version 2 or mix version 3, knowing that when I work on the next album, for sure it's going to take like 6 mixes. And I'm not talking about beat change ups, or I
Yeah.
did change some lyrics. I'm literally talking about the mixing and mastering in terms of
Yeah,
like
no, but
the
that's what
vocals, the
that's the
bass.
difference between you and somebody who is not gonna have like longevity and repeatability and stuff like that, right? And so like I'm stoked to hear some of that, and it's exactly what I suspected when I asked the question, is that like, yeah, the mixing and mastering is probably the most labor intensive, like, and so essentially, yeah, more or less, more like
It
the hardest,
is,
just
because
because where
then
you're
it's
at, you've
like
had
you
so many
gotta,
releases too, right? Okay, this is
yeah.
not something that some other rapper could achieve necessarily. This is because you've done like album after album kind of thing.
Yeah, even I showed my mom, and one of the things I'm grateful for in life, my mom, we just celebrated her 80th birthday, and it's like, I showed her
Wonderful.
that new artist, Teddy Swims, and she's like, she really liked this new artist. I showed her, and she's like, wow, like, look at him perform live on BBC. She's like, he has a whole band behind him. But then my mom told me, but you do all the music yourself. Like, I create I'm a producer, like a lot of
Yeah.
people, they like whatever my production, and then it's like I create the soundscape. I create all the parts of the band type thing, and it's like, yeah, like, so
That
like,
is one of the like toughest parts too, right? Like, and you do it well, so that's like,
thank
you
you.
know, like it can. I think like the fact that you step up to the plate every couple of years to like challenge yourself, and that's really admirable, dude. Because it's like, you're basically, yeah, making time to you know show the world that you have time for them to listen to your sick music. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like
Yeah, it's
that's
admirable. It's admirable of Admiral.
yeah, admiral of the admiral, exactly. Because it's like, yo, I mean, there's one thing to be somebody out there. You know what I'm saying? Who's just doing their thing. And again, I'm not trying to draw differences between people or something like that. But like, giving to the world and stuff like that, even just something to hear, to just, vibe out to, like, it means something actually, you know what I'm saying? Because like, you'd be surprised how many people in the world, like, they like the intangible. It's like that quote that, from Goats and Chaos and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like, the intangible, how hip hop is, you'd be surprised how many people is like, they just want something to comfort them in, the mess and the darkness and like, whatever the heck is going on in their lives and shit like that. And
Yeah, even
it doesn't have to be something that you necessarily like, yeah, like is all fabricated. It can be something that you built like through your hard work and your, with love and shit like that.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, even with my what was it, 2021 album, Sketch City, that was a COVID album. Like, while a lot of people complained about COVID and came out with like excuses, or like, or problems, or like I was on the forefront. First of all, I worked, I maintained work. I was working full time during COVID-19, and I created an album during COVID-19. And I had a reference that was so subtle to it. Um, I didn't even mention the word COVID-19. But it's not like the baby. He dropped an album and he put a mask on his face on the album cover, but Sketch City was literally created during, like, right when it started. Like, it was a COVID album, and I'm grateful. It's like that whole thing, like, trying to be great in the tough times, and then when things let up and it's easier, you're just kind of like, you can kind of cruise through it easier and enjoy the success. But at the same time, I think the discipline has to be there. And something like KRS-One, like, he always drops albums consistently, no matter what times. Like the late 80s, 90s, it doesn't matter. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's having those priorities straight and stuff too. Like, and that's what's admirable about the Admiral, man. He's on time, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's all. Thanks for yeah, showing up, dude.
You caught payback, they threw you off the map. You get no dap, trying to drop rhymes, but you're way off. While legends drop tracks like goats in chaos.
Well, the Bronx was tore up, okay? But it wasn't about the Bronx being torn up. It was about what we thought about it. So even though it was all torn up around us, that wasn't the point. The point was, how do we interpret it? So we started calling ourselves B-boys, B-girls, writers, MCs.
I like the sample at the end of the track, Goats in Chaos. There is a lot that I can say about that. What I feel from it is just how accessible hip-hop and rap are, and the energy that it has to offer, like how it can be just so accessible and free and stuff like that, and true and everything like that, right? So who was talking in those clips? I think one of them was Jay-Z, and was the first one. Sorry?
Can you guess the other one?
Busta Rhymes, maybe?
KRS-One.
KRS-One, that was it. Yeah, yeah.
So the track Goats in Chaos, like, it's I'm not kind of really on theme with what I say, but in a say it's like I'm more action, because, like, I had this idea, like, first of all, to me that just sounds like a cool title, Goats in Chaos, and a goat meaning greatest of all time. Looking at, and what it kind of means is, like, looking at someone like KRS-One or Jay-Z or Eminem or Busta Rhymes or Method Man in 2024, imagine the chaos that they have seen and that they're in, and they're consistent, they drop albums consistently, they're active, especially KRS-One, and it's like, yeah, at the end of the track, so I kind of rhyme about it, it's just like a grimy song, but it's like, how does the chorus go? I go, some people, like whack rhymers, they're like, they try to drop rhymes, but they're way off, while legends drop tracks like Goats in Chaos, which means it's like these legends are still dropping tracks like greatest of all time, chaotic times. They keep doing it, and the thing is that's what makes them great during the challenging times.
Yeah, they're going through whatever, anything, and they'll good or bad or whatever, and then putting the tracks. Yeah.
Going through sandstorms type thing, like, and then coming out good, and then it's like, I literally put sound bites of a KRS-One interview from 2023 and a Jay-Z interview from 2023. Not their older interviews, like, those are new interviews, so it's like you're hearing their words. You're actually hearing great goats speak in like, not saying,
I guess some chaos you created. Yeah, some chaos you created, kind of, with your horrorcore beat and your like, some of your like schemes and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, that's cool. That's cool, dude. And it's great that there's a level of work that you put into it. It's almost like, that image that we have of that rapper selling his mixtape outside of like a mini mall or something like that. It's almost like that except that dude being like, yo, check out this like interview, yo, like with a speaker or something, and like it'd be like Jay-Z
Yeah.
was just on the news the other day, yo, check out this interview or something, like being like you were just walking on your way to work or something like that. That's what I dig about it. It's very, very, very hip hop, very, very true to
Yeah,
form.
and I really wanted to put them in it because it's like, I think with hip hop and being a hip hop artist, it's like we present ideas out in the world. So it's like when I'm creating an album, and I'm grateful I was able to, I worked really hard and disciplined to drop an album practically every 2 years. And it's like there's so much stuff on social media gaining for like attention from us, the limited real estate space in our mind of attention and people's ideas. And I'm like, okay, like I almost consider myself like a journalist in a way. I find journalism, you're doing a great job first off in journalism, but a lot of true journalism is out the window. Like everyone thinks that they're back when it was blogs or vlogs, and it's like, man, they're not. Like who's that? There's, I don't know. Will
Yeah, there's a lot of blogging period is like, it boggles my mind just how cutting edge blogging is as a thing, as a medium and stuff like that. Like I will tell you, if you brought somebody from like the 1800s forward in time, and you got them accustomed to things or whatever the hell, blogging would fucking drive them nuts. You know what I'm saying? Because writing was such a fucking like crucial part of like what was life was like back in the day, and we had a different relationship to writing and shit like that. So if you explained it, they wouldn't even understand. They'd be fucking like.
And even the truth. So it's like, I know like somebody like Walter Cronkite was a famous journalist, but I don't know much about him to comment. But I know that Eric Margolis from the Toronto Sun was great regarding politics, and I'm not even into politics, but he was edgy. And then somebody like, Kurt Vonnegut, the author.
I've heard of the name, yeah.
So Kurt Vonnegut was a famous author, and I believe he was a war journalist, and he was literally like shoveling dead bodies in Vietnam. So it's like he's in the trenches writing about it, and then he comes in and he's an author. So I'm like, that's like a journalist should have some real credibility behind them. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's almost like the Toronto Star, Toronto Sun, New York Times. I mean, those journalists were taken very seriously, and journalism was an art. But now it's like vlogs and blogs have taken away the attention from the Toronto Star. And honestly, it's like I was really hurt by a lot of Toronto media even back in the day. Like I'd send my things to like my albums to Now Magazine, iWeekly. I think iWeekly was cool. I bought some advertising, but I remember I went to Toronto Star and I gave them death catchets. I brought it to their office, and my album with Beto, and it's like I brought it to them, and then the journalist messaged back. He was like, "Thanks for the album," and I gave him the CD, like pressed up CD, and like a one sheet on it, bio, whatever, what the album's about. And he's like, "Cool, thanks, but we're really not allowed to review albums unless you're on a major record label." And I'm like, I'm a Toronto MC, and the Toronto
red
Star
flag.
wouldn't. And I hope that Toronto Star one day reviews my stuff, or I get in the New York Times or Now Weekly, and then I'll be like, hey, like, yeah, like, you guys scared me when I was younger, but I hope to get to a level where it's like, oh, now you guys are paying attention to my work, and pay attention to all the other rappers in Toronto.
Yeah,
like,
but it's not. Your point is valid, though. I mean, it's like they'll take Maestro Fresh West and throw him out on the friggin' like front page or like somewhere on the newspaper or something like that. You know what I'm saying? They'll come up with an excuse to talk about that guy every week, and it's not that I even have a problem with that. I love all the tracks that he has and like all the work that he does and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And
But it's like
not-
that there is an issue there where it's like you can't also forget that there's a whole bunch of Toronto MCs out there in the street. You know what I'm saying? Like if they manage to get to your office and they're there with you and they're presenting you something, it might mean a little bit more than what you think actually. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where you're
I'll
right
even
to some
say
extent.
right now, like I love like Chuggo from Toronto, like Chuggo, Archaeologists, Lord Acuna, Master Mist. There's so many great Toronto artists that should be covered. You know what I mean? There's so many great rappers. So
Yeah. Like I mean, when I listen to your stuff, like I think about a rapper, Made Wade, for instance. He reminds me kind of your caliber.
I've heard of him.
Yeah.
I think I've spoken to him back in the day as well.
Yeah, that guy had like I'm not sure if he put out an album, but he definitely probably had enough tracks to put out an album. I'm not sure what it looked like if he did.
Yeah, and then I feel that like if you take like Toronto from like the year 2000 to 2010 or 1990 to 2000 and you look at these inner cities, hardly any rappers released albums. Like I like that Ghetto Concept represented Rexdale or Point Blank from Regent Park, but then you got like that's why I'm really inspired by Queensbridge in New York because it's housing projects and Mobb Deep came out of that, Nas came out of that.
I just think like there was a lot of Toronto's two rappers that got in on the mixtape buzz. You know what I'm saying? Like that Dat Piff and everything like that. Like I feel like there was a lot of rappers that got in on that with some music videos and some mixtapes and stuff like that. World Star, all that shit. Like when that was like really popping, And I feel like that we now have like a bunch of like lost tribesmen going on here as far as like good rappers going.
Yeah.
Like
the thing is like I want people to like release music out of. There's so many even like building complexes. Like I came from like. Dixon and Islington originally, and then like in my teens from 15 onwards, I was in Rexdale, like Bergamot. So, my albums came out of Bergamot, the Pinedale buildings. So it's like I want to see rap albums come out of other sets of buildings, and I'm not against residential places, but it's like I feel the best music can come out of, in a sense, these building complexes, whether they're housing or not, and it's like, but in a lot of them, I think now are caught up in whatever, man, clubbing or whatever, and it's like finish albums, like I want to see them finish albums and put them out, and then it's like then you have something in history, because I'm not kidding, like I can't name other albums that came out of these areas. Like I know Archaeologists, and I know you mentioned Tribesmen as like being tribesmen, but there was an actual group called Tribesmen that were like Archaeologists, and I believe they were around like Weston Road or and then the downtown.
Yeah.
But it's like there. I feel like in Toronto hip hop, there's like parts of like 10 years where it's like you can't name a rapper with an album, and everyone's got videos and YouTube and Instagram but where's like the Led Zeppelin version albums where you could look at a vinyl and really take it in?
Who's repping the physicals, who's counting the physicals and numbering them and shit like that by hand, because like that, like a punk will do that stuff in Toronto, like and that's where, and they'll sell like I was just talking to a dude from Hamilton who sold records, you know what I'm saying? Same way, like, and that's like physicals, and so I know what you like. It's very true. That's where Toronto needs to move if it's like, we're gonna up our game in terms of like rap music, hip hop, and shit like that. Is like creating a real a seller's market for albums and stuff like
True.
that.
And my boy Lord Acuna, and shout out also Rebs, and all these, like Lord Acuna, he set this thing up called the Bandies movement for well over 10 years, and he's incredible, always doing shows in Kensington Market, and he's really the dude doing things. And like, also rest in peace Matt Kazoo, who passed away recently, like, and shout out Conspiracy as well, he passed away recently. There's a lot of great Toronto rappers out there, and these like Toronto Star, Toronto Sun, CBC. I'm grateful at least CBC covered me, but there needs to be more journalistic coverage.
Yeah,
and not shout out the major label cats.
and I know what you're saying. Like they need to do the actual cool work, and they're kind of like, yeah, like maybe they need some help or some shit. Like they need to like to expose, like, cause how can somebody like me expose stuff like this, but then it's like they themselves is like they're acting like they're leaving food on the plate or something like that, when it's really, it's like there's not much actually going on, which is like, if you know anything about news media and stuff like that, I mean, I would say that there's a demand for that, like the whatever we have to offer as far as rap and hip hop goes, just because of like it's kind of like drought season to some extent on album releases and shit.
Yeah.
Factually talking about hookers. This chick came from a high class family. Had a scenery with absolutely no self-esteem. Met a scumbag with cash in hand. Had her dancing like a circus in a caravan. Not the type of hoe that they kidnap in a van, but the type you move into a condo with a plan. Keep her high, feed her weed, then have her stripping for the company. Fake studio heads and rappers are trying to pimp her, that's cool.
Welcome back to my world, a place for fans of 20 scene, 20scene.com, and peanut butter, that name peanut butter, to hear peanut butter talk about world issues and, vent a little bit, because all this stuff I try to relate it back to myself a little bit, kind of, to some extent, anecdotally, either, like, I don't know, like, when I was talking about that access to justice seminar that I was doing for my paralegal stuff, because I'm a peanut butter paralegal. If you can hear in the background, Misty's in the bathroom. She's meandering, so you might hear some scratchy noises for the litter box. Either way, we'll probably cut that out in post. Right place, right time. That access to justice seminar, I try to relate it back to myself. Okay? And, it's the topic is existing in the world. And you know what? Like, I think that I was at the right place at the right time when I got my G1. So, like, I think there's something to be said about existing in the right place, right? Like, I mean, when I became a paralegal, I had to do my licensing exam. I had to be there. Couldn't miss that. Paid to do the test. I think, being able to stay positive while existing, you know. It comes from being where you need to be, when you need to be there, right? There's something about that where you're just like aligning yourself with the world and the universe and everything like that. And I think that's kind of neat too, right? Like, but then it's just, I think that the conditions under which we live are also like a part of existing in the world, right? And so, you know, probably good to be kind to one another and not like, you know, shoot up the place like happened in Kansas recently. But well, I don't know. It's almost like people can't be seen in public these days anymore. That violence, something. But I guess it's always like that. I don't know. I've seen my fair share amount of that shit. You know, out and about. Like, I don't know. You go to out late at night, you know, to see shows and stuff like live music, and of course you're gonna see people getting tussles and arguments with cab drivers or stupid stuff like that, you know. It's I don't know. There's all sorts of people out there, right? Like existing. So, you know, I think being considerate of each other is a dynamic. You know, how kind are you going to be to your fellow man while you exist in the world? That's a part of it. Like, because you can sit there and just, you know, do the worst things and not care, and, you know, like, you can consider some things like, you know, harmless, and that other people consider, you know, serious.
Like that is it. There's no difference between the intangible and the tangible when it comes to the mind.
It's like really like things don't happen to you, they happen for you. That's life. Everything is life. It happens for you. Everything is for your greatest good. No matter what it looks, I mean, you know, you say you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? You can't control the future. I mean, you can control it up to some point. You can't control what others do. You can't control anything. Someone can run a red light, and that's the end of everything. You know, you only can control what you can control. Mm-hmm. So things don't happen to you; they happen for you.
QKP Media YouTube channel. That's right. That's what we're doing. And that's where you can find the interview with Admiral Crumple, the first one. That was before the album came out. Now the album is out. You can get it. Where can you get that, Crumple?
Directly from Instagram /Crumple1 or admiralcrumple@hotmail.com or Facebook, Admiral Crumple, all my official social media, which would be, or Twitter or X, whatever, Admiral Crumple. So like my official Instagram, official Facebook, X, or really direct, admiralcrumple@hotmail.com. And I did a bunch of CDs. They sold out. I'm going to repress them, and I'm selling these USB cards with the whole album on it, plus all the art. And yeah, that's the way they get it until it will be out on Spotify soon.
Great. Yeah. And any upcoming shows or anything you want to say to your listeners?
Yeah, nothing in the works just now. But like, yeah, when I do a show, I will announce it on my Instagram.
You got that music video coming up though, that for sure.
Yes.
And Yeah, like I mean, so like anything you want to say else, or it's up to you?
No, I just I think I created a new horrorcore album. I think it's like a really hardcore album, and I'd like to thank you because I think you're doing really great work as a journalist because you take your time, to prepare questions and really know and learn about artists. And I think I
Thank
want
you,
to.
thank you. That's
If you,
20
if you,
scene though. It was a team effort, and still I would say is a very collaborative thing. So it's not just me. When you thank me, you're actually thanking a lot of other people as well who really stepped up to the plate time and time again, yourself included.
thank you. And I think that, like, I'd love to see, like, for instance, if you worked for Toronto Star or CBC or whatever, you would be like the greatest journalist there. I mean, like,
I wish
I
there's.
don't know anyone there. Like, I know Thomas Quinlan was great, who runs Han Solo.
I wish for something like that, and I think a lot of people do. But I would also say, it's tough, right? Like, because when I talk to there's Hardkives, for instance, they do zines as well, and that's Hardkives on Instagram at Hardkives. They do zines, and the girl there is communications major, and that's somebody who's actually university trained, could be like a fucking journalist if they want and shit, and has done journalism and shit, which is crazy. So it's like I am kind of like doing the things that journalists do, you know what I'm saying? But it's yeah, it would.
Because even hip hop media, like the Breakfast Club, that guy Charlemagne is a
Yeah.
really, to me, a scary dude because he made that little mama girl cry on air. He
what?
disrespected Master P, No Limits Mercedes. Master P put him in his place. He disrespected Onyx. He disrespected a lot of great artists. He disrespected Post Malone, but he has this huge platform. And I'm not trying to disrespect him, but it's weird. Why? Yeah, sure, he could do some other great work, but it's like there's no time to disrespect people. Like, there really isn't, man, or put people down. Like, I saw this thing recently about how hard he was trying to put Post Malone on the spot where he was just about to blow up, and how just insulting he was to him. And Post Malone had a long-term girl, and he's like, yeah, you're gonna cheat, they all cheat. And it's it was really strange, man. And it's just like, what's he doing? And it's like, this was that Post Malone, didn't even blow up yet, and it's like he was baiting him to say, and it must have been really tough. It's like it could have derailed Post Malone's career, but Post Malone was very responsible, and he's one of the greatest successes in music, even above hip hop. So I was happy to see that. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. Like, I mean, even in Toronto, who is that guy? The Q or whatever. And he got in that that grimy court case. Gomeshi, famous journalist. You know what I'm saying? Like, Gomeshi was cutting edge. If before he got booked doing all that shit, he was the coolest fucking
great.
guy.
I don't even know. I can't really comment on that, but he had an incredible interview with Jizza from Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's nobody thought he was a piece of shit whatsoever.
Yeah, no, Me Too movement. I don't even know what happened. It was just some girls from his past who came out, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know what happened." If you it's like this: if he really sexually assaulted someone, that's completely whack. I'm against that. That's horrible. But if it's somebody coming out of the woodwork and trying to get fame or trying to put someone down through a lie,
yeah, I just think it's like with Charlemagne the God is he's surrounded by so many fucking people and shit like that. That's where it's you can't just sort of like say that he's reacting to just his own fucking like ego and shit sometimes, right? Like, I mean, realistically, how many times is he like he's going dealing with this famous person and that famous person and that famous person? I mean, I don't know, man. Like, these are all people who, like, you know, they have their politics, and like, you know, it's easy to have your politics in line when all, you know, you're doing is just like creating art, you know. But when you're an artist interviewing a bunch of artists and all around artists all the time, it's crazy, you know.
My thing with him is like, it's just like, how the fuck can you disrespect Onyx? Like, Fredro Starr, Sticky Fingers, it's like the nerve of him to even get close to disrespecting Onyx. Like,
oh yeah, I'm not co-signing anything that guy's done, like in terms of that shit. Like, I mean, I've heard people be hypercritical of him for sure. I was just saying, like, it is also genuinely tough to know, like, where he's coming from, and I think that's part of it. Like, does he play into that, or does that absolve him? I'm not sure.
And I mean, hey, like, my bad if it seems like I'm dissing him, but it's like, hey, I wish him the best. He's doing his thing. I know he talked good for mental health, and okay, cool, but you know, like, certain things, like, fuck, he shouldn't have been just weird with people, man. Like, it is what it is, man.
Yeah, I think, you know, like, it's all about getting out there and, like, you know, putting the word out that, like, you know, something good is happening. And maybe Charlemagne the God missed the point of that with Post Malone. I think Post Malone's fucking awesome and shit like that. Like, you know, I don't know. But yeah, no, I think that's the point of what we're doing here too, is like getting the word out there. So yeah, Nightmare Fuel, everything like that. And you know, we got the what's the track for the music video coming out? That's you're more of a hooker than a singer. Yeah. Look up.
All these girls who are like doubling up as escorts, and they're like, it's like, what are they? Are they more on the hooker side, or are they trying to create art? And it's like, it's like, what you do more, you become more of. And it's like, hey man, it's like, you don't gotta get involved in that life. Like, be a singer, drop an album type stuff. It's like, it's just,
well, I'm stoked, and like, dude, congratulations on another great album.
Got you in the throat, stab up your mom. Yup, I'm the school shooter type, and when you least expect it, you'll get sniped. 'Twas a silent night, a silencer night. Silence the scumbag who always picks fights. Throw a cinder block at your head, poison your girl's food so she's dead. Then casually scratch your car while it's parked in its bed. Corrupt, I'll mess your day up, breaking your crib and tell your rich family to pay up. Get a group of street kids to deface your grandfather's tomb. His body will get exhumed and doused in $5 hooker perfume. And I just lay back and watch you get disrespected. Reach out to those you admire and forever get rejected. Become a cop, first day get shot. I record, do shows, just hip hop. I'm an MC, for instance. I've got over 400,000 views on my vids for significance. I sat back, laughed, you caught payback. They threw you off the map, you get no dap. Trying to drop rhymes, but you're way off. While legends drop tracks like goats in chaos. Fronting with the rich, but they're really close to homeless. Lone wolves punching your nose in, cause they're dopeless. It's poor management, like a rusty movie set. I'll cast a fucking spell and spiral you to hell. I hope I see you on the news in a
Trump
month.
and his sons recently, I think they had yesterday, I heard, or today, they had their businesses fined $364 million or something for fraud, in that, like, overestimating the property of their like they overestimated the price of their properties or something like that, the value, and their taxes, I guess. And it's just like, I don't know, it's crazy. Like, even some dudes like that will cross the line on fraud, right? So it's like, apparently that's not being kind to your fellow man, you know? I mean, like, uh, I just think that it's like, what can you do about people who just don't really care about things that are incidental, that, you know, can be written off as like collateral or something, you know? Because there are people that, you know, they'll worry about that after the fact if they have to, you know, and they'll just move faster than that and burn harder than that, you know? And like, I don't know, like, because some people they have resources to play with, and they got, you know, things they're trying to get done, and like, I don't know. I imagine that's how the Trumps are. But for me, it's just like, plays out in like situations where, you know, I exist in the world and I get out there and, you know, like, take part and like find out where people are, you know, on certain stuff, right? Like, and I mean, like, as far as like understanding things, and like, you know, either by experience or knowledge or whatever, right? And I'm talking about people in your general vicinity or whatever, like in your city or your town or something. And so it's like I remember I found myself at this conference once about men's issues, and you know, I, silly enough, I helped name the conference. I just because I was I was using a thesaurus, and I found the word momentum, and they used that for the name for the conference. It's this yearly men's issues conference that this charity was doing, and I think they still do it too. But the reason I bring it up is because I was there, and I talked about the concept of like parental fraud, because there was like a question and answer period for some speakers that were there, and there was this lady from the UK, and she had an interesting set of information that she was going off about, and I figured maybe she'd have some knowledge or experience in dealing with situations like that, or knowing like how prevalent something like that is in the day to day, how common, right? Because there's just some things that, like, you know, statistics and information just isn't really readily available for the, you know, general public. And it was an interesting moment of existing in the world and finding that, like, yeah, I mean, there was work to be done, and there was, like, you know, like something to look forward to, I guess, in terms of just like unresolved pursuits, right? And I talk about parental fraud just because recently this woman got in trouble for it somewhere in Ontario. I don't remember the exact details. It sounded like it was something where, you know, she had duped people into thinking that they were going to have a child with her, and that she was pregnant, and then not having the child for whatever reason, on purpose or whatever, like 3 times in a row, maybe 3 different people. I don't know, maybe same person. Seemed like something like that, from what I could tell from the news article. I just glanced at it, but I remember I got heated because I was just like, wow, finally, you know, like, people start kind of like talking about the realities of things like that, and you know, because there's people from all different walks of life out there, right? And I don't think that, they should have to go around parading their life stories for people so that people understand that there's people like them that exist, right? Like, we should just be able to, like, have that information available to us. And we're all adults and we're mature or whatever, I'm not saying give this information like young people, super young people, some strangeness like that, but I'm saying, like, definitely being more active as people to like get that information out there of like the variety of people that we encounter in our day to day, right? I think it's only fair. That's where some of these postmodernists and stuff like that, I think, are right. Just because it's like the truth is a powerful thing. Knowledge is a powerful thing, right? So, like, I don't know. I think that's pretty important to existing in the world, not only for survival too, but like for all different kinds of conditions. And in the long run, I think Misty's getting impatient with me. She might want me to turn off the recording here, but I think I have enough. So yeah, I wanted to shout out Admiral Crumple and thank him for the follow-up interview. Shout outs Cataphonic Recordings, Cataphonic Productions. Shout outs Matt Ellis. Shout outs Matt Ellis. Shout outs Admiral Crumples. You know what I'm saying? We got hopefully another one coming up soon too. I don't want to spoil who the interview is, but I'm working on another interview. But yeah, this is my world, and that was existing in the world. I think, chatting a little bit about that. Look out for episode 3. And definitely check out 20scene.com. That's for sure. Alright, so have fun doing whatever it is that you're doing, chugging, and, you know what I'm saying, looking good, and stop and go traffic somewhere on the highway or something. Yeah, and definitely say hi to your boy Peanut Butter in the comment section or something like that. Like and subscribe, all that.